Tonight, a CBS Eyewitness News special. Brian Dorman investigates California's crisis, the state of fentanyl. Presented by My Time Recovery.
I did the right thing in life. I raised him right.
Fentanyl is different from any other street drug that has ever been on the streets of the United States of America. It is an instant killer.
We're going to catch you. We continue to catch you.
For the first time here this last year, we are seeing people who are fentanyl addicts. They are addicted to fentanyl.
If I didn't die, that was okay. I'm just going to wake up and do it again. But if I died, that was just part of the game.
So we're going to make it so extraordinarily hard to traffic narcotics into this state that you will look to do it elsewhere.
The doctor said, time of death, 3:18. And that was it.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for this special report. I'm Brian Dorman. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll take an in-depth look at California's crisis, the state of fentanyl. Our investigation took us to the California National Guard in Sacramento to see what's being done right now to assist law enforcement and Border Patrol in tackling this crisis. It took us inside hard and honest conversations here at home about what it's like to be caught up in the cycle of addiction. It took us to the southern border, the front line of the fentanyl crisis. It also took us inside a mother's living room where she walked us through the pain of losing her only child to poison. As much as we talk about fentanyl and its deadly dangers, there are some watching tonight who may not understand exactly what fentanyl is or why it's so deadly. Fresno Police Chief Paco Balderrama explains.
Fentanyl is a drug. It is not an opioid. It is a counterfeit opioid. So basically, it's man-made. You know, a true opioid comes from the poppy plant, and that has to be grown. And there's a lot of business perspectives as to why fentanyl is what it is. Number one, very lucrative. They can get these derivatives very cheaply. They don't have to grow a plant. It doesn't take weeks or months. They basically make this in a lab. And basically fentanyl is a sedative. You know, it's something that can be used by the medical community to put you out, you know, with oxygen in case they have to operate on you. You know, it does give you a high. It's highly addictive. And, you know, it's something that's highly affecting our community.
Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. It is made in China and India and shipped to Canada and Mexico, where it is trafficked into the United States. The majority of fentanyl making its way into our country is from Mexico, with cartels cashing in on the movement.
And the doctor sat down next to me and he said, you know, we've been working on him for over an hour. And it's going to get to the point where we're breaking ribs. And there's really nothing more we can do.
Pamela Smith's 22-year-old son Jackson died from a fentanyl overdose in July 2016. His death proves just one.
This room was just filled with doctors and nurses. And all this life-saving equipment. And Jackson. And there was a very large male nurse straddling him, giving him chest compressions, trying to save his life. And within seconds of entering that room, the doctor said, time of death, 3:18. And that was it.
3:18 a.m., July 3rd, 2016. That was the moment Pamela Smith was forced to say goodbye to her only child, Jackson Henry Smith.
I didn't think that this would ever affect me or my family. And when it did, how could this happen? I did the right thing in life. I raised him right.
Wading through tortured thoughts, Pamela took me back to some better times.
Jackson, he was a great kid. He was just so sweet and kind and just really funny, and he had the greatest laugh. He was smart, and he was always so helpful.
Pamela shared her favorite story about Jackson when he and his dad were skiing in Tahoe and came across an older man struggling with groceries on an icy street.
So Jackson just stopped and he said, "Dad, hold my skis." And he went to that gentleman and grabbed the groceries and carried it into this man's house for him. That's the kind of person he was.
Bright, she says, as he was thoughtful. A graduate of Central West High, Jackson majored in math at Fresno City College. At 21, he moved to Los Angeles to attend CSU Northridge. It was there where things started to spiral.
I found out 13 months later from a phone call from his roommates that he was doing an awful lot of drinking and taking pills, and they were very worried about him. They were extremely concerned, and they said, you know, he's going to die if he doesn't stop.
Pamela drove to LA, packed up Jackson's things, and brought him back home in the fall of 2015. Soon after, Jackson admitted he had a problem. He checked himself into an out-treatment program at St. Agnes.
He started looking much better in April and May. And then in June, he started looking bad again. And I asked him, I said, "Are you taking drugs again?" And he swore to me he wasn't.
But Jackson was still abusing his drug of choice, oxycodone.
It was counterfeit. It was laced with fentanyl. Just one pill, that's all it took.
Now, every morning, Pamela wakes up with one goal: stopping another mother from suffering the loss of a child.
A lot of kids these days are seeking out fentanyl. As crazy as that sounds, but they are. 70% of the pills that are taken off the street are laced with fentanyl. It's a very, very dangerous situation.
Today, Pamela runs a support group for other grieving mothers and speaks all over the Central Valley and California on the deadly consequences of fentanyl.
These dealers are not your friend. The only thing they care about is your money, okay? They know what they're doing, they know what they're selling, and they know that what they're selling you could kill you. And that is not a friend.
To parents, Pamela's message is this: their business is your business. There are signs to look out for that may signal that your child is struggling with addiction.
Search those rooms, search those backpacks. If they have a car, find out what's in that car. Because if you start finding like pieces of aluminum, spoons, needles, little baggies that are ripped open, they've got a problem.
Pamela prays by sharing her story, it will save lives. The goal is for no other parent to have to bury their child of fentanyl and wonder what would have been. Today, Jackson Smith would have been 30 years old.
Today, if he was alive and he was 30, that he'd probably be married and I'd be a grandmother. Something that I'll never get to experience. And he'd probably have a great career. And he loved kids. He just loved little kids. And he'd probably be just a terrific dad. And it makes me so sad that I'll never experience that.
Still to come tonight as we continue to investigate California's crisis, the state of fentanyl. We head to the southern border. It has been 1 year since Governor Gavin Newsom announced a $1 billion plan to tackle our state's drug crisis. Is the governor's plan working? We turn to Major General Matthew Beavers with the California National Guard in Sacramento for the answer.
General, what's your message for those who are trafficking fentanyl?
Yeah, we're going to catch you. We continue to catch you. We're going to deny your profits. We're going to make it so extraordinarily hard to traffic narcotics into this state that you will look to do it elsewhere.
And last year in the state of California, enough fentanyl was seized to kill everybody in the world nearly 2 times over. And it is here at the California-Mexico border where the majority of fentanyl is still trafficked into our state. I recently sat down with Major General Matthew Beavers in Sacramento to learn what is being done here at the border to keep families across the Central Valley and state safe.
How big of a problem do you believe this is right now?
It's significant, and it's by and large greater than any other challenges we have with other narcotics. That kind of bounces back and forth between fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin, but by and large, fentanyl becomes the #1 challenge that we have. We see that coming across our border every day.
In September 2023, Governor Gavin Newsom announced a nearly 50% increase in California National Guard service members to the border. Today, 60 soldiers are stationed along the 4 U.S. ports of entry. Their goal is to assist the U.S. Customs and Border Protection in stopping fentanyl from entering California.
And we've seen some minor improvements in fentanyl numbers coming down across the border, and we believe, frankly, that some of that stuff is now moving east because of the work that we've done on our southern border. The challenge is that while some of that stuff is moving east through Arizona, it's still coming back to California.
Just a couple of weeks ago, on May 7th, National Fentanyl Awareness Day, the governor's office announced the state's counter-drug task force has helped law enforcement agencies seize 7,100 pounds of fentanyl and more than 3.4 million fentanyl pills across the state and at the southern border since the start of 2024.
General, I must ask, when you break down those numbers, what does that mean? I mean, to get that much fentanyl powder and pills off of the streets across the state, what does that mean?
It means it's taken that money out of the hands of transnational criminal organizations. It's taken it out of the pockets of drug lords, be it in Mexico, in Central America. It's impacting their supply chains that come from China and India.
When it comes to tackling the problem, General Beaver says that he is proud of the work that his team of about 300 folks in his organization are doing every single day. He says the state has taken an honest assessment of the problem and is 100% committed to ending the fentanyl epidemic that has touched every state in our country.
It's easy to say there's a problem. It's much more challenging to actually address it and have the moral courage to go after it, come what may. We're not always successful as we want to be, but we are moving the needle forward. We are doing the things that we need to do.
And it's not just enforcement. CalGuard has service members in more than 100 schools across the state, educating students on the deadly consequences of fentanyl.
We've probably engaged more than 100,000 students. And this is not your mother's or your grandfather's just say no to drugs talking point, if you will. This is trauma-informed training that speaks to how to improve your life, how to be more resilient, how to have a healthy lifestyle, how to just characterize how you want to live your life so you can remain drug-free.
They teach students that fentanyl is highly addictive and tells people meth takes 20 years to kill you. Fentanyl takes 20 seconds. He is most concerned about an alarming trend of more people deliberately seeking out fentanyl to feed their addiction. Those addicted to fentanyl typically die from it within 4 to 5 months.
For somebody watching who's stuck in that right now, what would be your message to them?
Yeah, reach out, call somebody. There's a plethora of services available across the state, and in every town and every community. You have to reach out, and social services is there, police officers are there. I can assure you that if you walk up to a police officer in any state or any city in our state and you tell them that you have a problem and you need help, they will help you.
Governor Gavin Newsom released an exclusive statement to CBS 47 News for the special report saying, quote, fentanyl is a poison and it does not belong in our communities. California is cracking down, increasing seizures, expanding access to substance abuse treatment, and holding drug traffickers accountable to combat the immeasurable harm opioids have caused in our communities, end quote. But not everyone is convinced that enough is being done here at the border to stop the flow of fentanyl. I recently sat down with Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp to talk about the fight of fentanyl here at the border. Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp started an education and awareness campaign 3 years ago to stomp out fentanyl in Fresno County. It's a fight that she's extremely passionate about.
My passion for this is because I have had very close family members who have had addictive disorders, and so I understand how difficult it is to live with somebody that becomes addicted. Really good, smart, intelligent, kind people get addicted.
Smitkamp says that she is is continually let down by those at the federal and state levels for allowing poison in the form of fentanyl pills and powder to continue to flow across the southern border.
I think we need to start waking up as Americans and thinking, who are we voting for and why are we voting for them? And what are our elected officials doing to protect the border? Because there is not one thing that the Fresno County District Attorney's Office, or the Fresno Sheriff's Department, or the Fresno Police Department can do to protect that border.
Camp blames weak state laws on drugs and a loose border for California's fentanyl crisis. Mexican cartels are still the driving force behind it.
I think the cartels are stronger, meaner, and more ruthless than they've ever been, despite our best efforts. We are in an economic crisis at every level of our nation. Our federal budget is in deficit, our state budget is in deficit, which in turn makes our counties and our cities struggle.
What do you think the pathway forward is? What would your solution be at the border and across the state?
We need to somehow increase and improve the relationships that we have with Mexico to get them to partner with us. That's number one. Number two, we just need to do a better job on our side of the border, whatever that looks like from a federal level, because the governor of Texas and the governor of California should not be the people who are in charge of border security.
Back in the Valley, Smithcamp is focused on what she can control. In a first for Fresno County, Smithcamp's office filed charges against Cassidy Gonzalez for first-degree murder in the death of 41-year-old Jade Drythe in October 2022 for selling a deadly dose of fentanyl to someone who died from an overdose. Gonzalez pled not guilty. And just 2 weeks ago, on May 7th, Smithcamp filed murder charges again, this time against 25-year-old Antoine Lee for his alleged involvement in the fentanyl poisoning death of 34-year-old Vernisha Green.
We really are trying to send a strong message to people that are selling it. Hey, if you do this and you continue to do this after we can prove that you have the knowledge that it is lethal, then we will come after you for murder charges.
Smithcamp is also focused on educating students and parents about the dangers of fentanyl. Over the past year, she has spoken at more than a dozen high schools, most recently Sanger and Reedley.
The thing that I try to stress when I go into these gyms and these environments with kids is that fentanyl is different from any other street drug that has ever been on the streets of the United States of America. It is an instant killer. With alcohol, methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, any drug that they may have any knowledge of, a lot of times it takes a period of time to go from the use phase to the abuse phase to the addiction phase. And with fentanyl, that happens literally overnight. And every single time that they experiment with one of these pills is literally an opportunity that pill has to kill them.
Still to come tonight as we continue to investigate California's crisis, the state of fentanyl. We'll head back to Fresno for a story of hope, what it's like to be caught up in the cycle of drug addiction. You'll hear from a man who played that deadly game and survived.
And it's crazy because using at the end wasn't even fun, you know what I mean? It was just surviving, I would get sick every single time I used, every single time.
Words from a drug addict in recovery. He overdosed 4 times. Narcan saved his life. His name is Howard Piper, and boy, does he have a story to share.
I want to just start with your story.
Sure.
Yeah. Share
I don't know if we got enough time.
Yeah.
Grew up in Massachusetts, a small city called Brockton, Massachusetts. Kind of the biggest claim to fame is that's where Rocky Marciano grew up, and to Boston City.
Without struggling to find his next sentence.
I got dared to do coke when I was 13 in school, in math class. I did it, and then that next weekend I did more. And then started finding out that you can make money off of it. So why am I gonna go to school and go to work when I can sell drugs and make 20 times what my parents are making?
Howard Piper shared his life story of struggle, a death wish, and recovery.
Started doing heroin, and it was a fraction of the price, same if not better high, and it got bad real fast.
A story of addiction that started in middle school and would continue for 25 years.
Weed, cocaine, heroin, pretty much every prescription medication that had a side effect that would be beneficial to trying to not feel like myself. Angel dust, acid, LSD. I can now say meth. I used to be able to say everything except for methamphetamine until I did meth.
A story of loss. His dad died when he was just 19 years old. The loss of custody of his nearly 2-year-old daughter from his addiction to drugs. The loss of friends, one after another, to pills, powder, and poison.
And overdoses and police and jails and detoxes. I probably went to, from 2016 to the middle of 2018, at least 30 detoxes. Because I knew, like at that point I had an understanding of what I had to do, or else, you know, I've seen quite a people, more than I want to say, people die while using in the same spot that I'm using.
Howard would string sentence to sentence together,
whatever you had or anybody else had,
untangling his complicated story.
I like to say I went to a party when I was 13, and I stopped partying in 2018. And you know, or I tell people I did coke once for 25 years. You know, but it just got bad.
Howard would continue for 28 uninterrupted minutes.
I would get sick every single time I used.
And then I asked this.
Do you wish that it was different? Do you wish that you had taken a different path?
I ask myself this a lot, you know. From where I sit right now, no, I wouldn't change a thing. Do I wish that we didn't lose as many people as we did? And you know, yeah, of course, I would never wish that upon anybody.
On New Year's Day 2020, sobriety and a fresh start brought Howard to the Valley and to a sober living house in Clovis. This July, Howard will celebrate 6 years of sobriety.
How does it feel to actually have overcome it and be on the good side of things?
It's indescribable, you know what I mean? And I speak about it a lot, you know. There's nothing I would trade for what I have now, you know. And not materialistic things, not anything, just the way that I feel about myself. And the small accomplishments that I've had, just they mean so much more because of the hard work that I put into it.
He founded Fentanyl Anonymous, a Fresno nonprofit of providing a sanctuary of support and empowerment to those grappling with fentanyl addiction.
We call it Fentanyl Anonymous because fentanyl is in pretty much everything. And we're getting out there, you know. We're halfway across the country already. We're working on our 3rd meeting here in Fresno. We just need support, you know. It's the more we can get the word out, the more people we can help, you know, and that's the whole goal of this.
He hopes one day fentanyl doesn't exist. The pain of nearly losing it all, his life, his family, his future to drugs, in the end, wouldn't have been worth it.
Anybody that was actively using, just try it, man, you know. It was told to me, listen, give us a year. If you try it for a year, right, and your life hasn't dramatically improved, the street's still there. You can go out. It's always going to be there.
Do you miss it at all?
No. No.
Still to come as we continue to investigate California's crisis, the state of fentanyl. A look at what resources are available if you or someone you know wants to break the cycle of drug addiction. Before we go, we want to pass along important information on where you can go to get help for yourself or someone who you know is struggling with drug or even alcohol abuse. Here are some resources by phone. Someone is standing by right now to help. You can contact the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration National Helpline or the Department of Health Care's Meta Nurse Line, which is on your screen right now. And here are some of the places in the Valley where you can go in person for help. My Time Recovery, Fentanyl Anonymous, and Community Regional Medical Center. These locations and phone numbers can also be found on our website. You can also find and share all of the stories that aired in this special report at yourcentralvalley.com. I'm Brian Dorman. From all of us at CBS 47 News, thank you for joining us for this special investigation, California's crisis, the state of fentanyl.